Hi, everyone. Welcome to tonight's meeting. We're excited to discuss why maintenance matters and to share more about this impact in action. Thanks for spending part of your day with us to talk flood control, maintenance, and how your voice can help guide this work across Harris County. Before we start, a quick note. This meeting is available in English, Spanish, Vietnamese, and Mandarin. Click the interpretation icon at the bottom of your screen, choose your language, and select Mute Original Audio. I'm going to ask each interpreter to repeat that for our attendees. Spanish.
Hola a todos, bienvenidos a la reunión de esta noche. Estamos entusiasmados de discutir por qué es importante el mantenimiento y compartir más sobre ese impacto en acción. Gracias por pasar parte de su día con nosotros. Y antes de comenzar, una nota rápida. Esta reunión está disponible en inglés, español, vietnamita y mandarín. Haga, por favor, localice el icono de interpretación en la parte inferior derecha de su pantalla. Seleccione el idioma de su preferencia, español, vietnamita o mandarín, y seleccione audio original. Silenciarlo para evitar escuchar la retroalimentación en ambos idiomas. Esto es muy importante.
Vietnamese.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người, xin chào đến cuộc họp công khai trực tuyến tối hôm nay với cái nhóm liên lạc của bên lũ lụt. Trong khi chúng tôi bắt đầu ngày hôm nay thì chúng ta có thể bấm vào cái hộp hỏi và đáp đó ở cuối màn hình và cho chúng tôi biết quý vị tham gia họp từ đâu, khu phố nào, lưu vực nào và nguồn nào. Trong khi mà quý vị nhập hỏi của mình thì tôi sẽ chuyển phần trình bày này đến người giám đốc phụ trách, và trên đây nó có 3 ngôn ngữ để mà mình cần cái gì. Nếu mình cần tiếng Việt thì xin bấm vào tiếng Việt, cần tiếng Tây Ban Nha thì bấm vào Tây Ban Nha, cần vào tiếng Trung Hoa thì xin bấm vào tiếng Trung Hoa để mà mình có thể hiểu rõ hơn vấn đề. Thì một lần nữa sau đó thì mình có thể như phản hồi hay mình phải viết trên đó với cái ngôn ngữ của mình tiếng Việt, bấm vào tiếng Việt để mà có mọi người giúp cho mình. Cảm ơn rất nhiều các quý vị để tham gia, dành thời gian để mà tham gia với cuộc tối họp ngày hôm nay. Cảm ơn.
Mandarin.
各位听众晚上好，欢迎大家参加此次会议。请注意，本次会议会以西班牙语、越南语和中文普通话同步翻译。如果您想接听中文，请查找屏幕右下方的说明性图标，选择语言偏好西班牙语、越南语或中文普通话，选择原始音频静音，这样可避免收听反馈信息及两种语言。这样您可以收听中文的翻译。欢迎大家，谢谢。
Welcome again, everyone. I'm Crystal Morales with the Flood Control District Communications team. While we get started, click the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen and tell us where you're joining from, what neighborhood or what watershed. While you're inputting your responses, I'm going to turn things over to Emily Waddell, our Chief External Affairs Officer, to start the conversation. Emily, over to you.
Thanks so much, Crystal, and thanks to everyone for joining us this evening. I'm seeing a lot of folks dropping in the chat where they're from, and it's great to see. I see Keegan's Bayou, San Jac, Heath Lake, Fairfield. We're so excited to share more about what's happening. This work really does touch every corner of our channel network. So just to level set, 1 year ago, Harris County voters said yes to something that has been a complete game changer for how we care for this county's flood control system. Voters approved an additional $100 million in annual funding. All of that is dedicated to the maintenance of flood control infrastructure. And it's insane to think that it has been a year since that vote. But that vote gave us something we had not had in decades, and that's dependable and dedicated funding for maintenance. If you think about it, for more than 30 years, our crews were stretching every dollar, trying to keep up with an aging infrastructure in a rapidly growing county. So tonight's session builds on that progress. Before the vote, we held a series of meetings to hear directly from you about your priorities, and this is all about showing what we've done since then. It's a continuation of that conversation, and it's really our chance to show what impact and action really looks like. So now, like I mentioned, for the first time in a generation, we've had the ability to plan, maintain, and respond proactively, not just reactively, to those issues that we're seeing on the ground. And that means two things. That means finally catching up on the deferred work we knew was an issue, and it means being more responsive to new issues as they arise. Think things like illegal dumping, erosion, sediment in channels, crumbling pipes. That's the unglamorous but really essential stuff that keeps our flood control system flowing. And tonight, we're here to talk about what that investment looks like in action, as well as what's next. So to take a step back, when you hear flood control, most people think big construction, maybe a wide channel or a massive stormwater detention basin. And there's no doubt that that work is incredibly important to reducing flood risk in our area. But tonight's about something that happens in bayous and backyards and basins day in and day out across Harris County. That's maintenance. Maintenance is the everyday work that keeps those systems working and ready for when it matters most. This work is boots on the ground, quite literally. It's crews clearing debris, repairing storm channel slopes, mowing acres and acres of grass, planting native species, and fixing what storms wear down. This is the muddy, physical, hands-on work that frankly rarely makes the headlines, but it can be the reason homes don't flood when the next storm hits. And thanks to your support and to the leadership of Harris County Commissioners Court, we're finally able to do more of it. And we're doing it faster, better, and at a larger scale than ever before. So tonight, here's what we'll talk about. We'll talk about what maintenance looks like, both on the ground and behind the scenes. We're going to talk a little bit about the progress we've made this first year using the increased funding. We'll talk about the challenges that remain and how we're prioritizing them. And what I think most importantly, how you can help shape the future of this work. Now, we do have the chat function unfortunately disabled tonight, but the Q&A chat is going to be your best friend. So you can use that at any time. We do want to hear from you, and we'll open the floor for questions here in just a little bit. So let's get into it. So for context, the Flood Control District has been around since 1937. That's about 88 years. And our mission is simple, but it's tough. We plan, build, and maintain the systems that reduce flood risk in Harris County. And we're doing that in a region that's shaped by water. This work is truly critical to the future success of our region. We work across all 23 of Harris County's watersheds, which are natural drainage areas that help to shape our landscape. Those areas include 2,500 miles of channels. In addition to that, we have more than 280 stormwater detention basins located across the county and nearly 50,000 acres of land that we're responsible for. It's a system that's larger than some states' entire infrastructure networks, and it serves more than 5 million people across the region. To put that into perspective, we maintain more miles of channels than some states have in highways. And for decades, we frankly did not have enough funding to maintain it all the way that we needed to. And that's really why this investment matters so much. It's helping us care for what we already built, supporting new infrastructure as it comes online, and making sure all of it keeps serving people when it's needed the most. So to share more about our teams in action, we're going to watch a quick video that shows you what boots on the ground really looks like for our maintenance teams. I will admit to you all that we're having some audio issues with this video. So we're going to watch it together. It's about 2 minutes, but it really shows you some of the on the ground work that's going on really across Harris County. So I'll let the tape roll a little bit, but I'll point out some key things along the way. So we'll talk about this a little bit more, but our maintenance work really does span all different kinds of infrastructure. In the video, you'll see water-based operations, land-based operations, and we'll talk a little bit more about what some of the key activities look like, from mowing all the way down to repairs. And one of the key things that you'll see in each and every video is people. We talked about the fact that this is boots on the ground work, but Jason will share a little bit more in a second about who is doing this work and what that really means to us. And one of the things that we do also know is that this work really does enable growth and enables the continued investment into our communities. And that's something that you'll see as well. You know, this is really making sure that our infrastructure works when we need it. And I think the other thing that I'll just point out is that in addition to the people you see in the video, you're also seeing a lot of equipment. It takes a lot to do the work that our team does. And that specialized equipment is really critical to making sure that we're able to do the work that we need to do where we need to do it. The reality of our work is that it happens on water, it happens on land, it happens everywhere. But we're really focused on getting it done and making an impact across Harris County. Okay, well, with that, you can see that it's been a busy year. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn it over to Jason Cron. Jason is our Chief Infrastructure and Operations Officer, and Jason's teams are the ones who are out in the field every day, really doing this work and making a difference. So Jason's the best person to walk us through it. So Jason, over to you.
Thank you so very much, Emily. And thank you to everyone who joined in tonight. I know that it's busy out there. Everyone has stuff going on. Your participation really shows us that you care about this program as much as our teams care about delivering on this program for the residents of Harris County. So as Emily mentioned, we had a very, very busy first year. And this first year we had more funding, which allowed us to catch up on the backlog of deferred maintenance work we've accumulated over decades. While there's still more to do, we've made a big dent in that backlog. In the past 12 months, we've restored more than 100 miles of channel. And as you can see, that's from Houston to Beaumont. In addition to that, in this first year, we've cleared more than 280,000 linear feet of sediment. That's the stuff that accumulates in the channel bottom. And we've made a huge progress on that as well, stretching from downtown Houston to the sandy beaches of Galveston. We've also removed more than 50,000 cubic yards of debris from our channels and systems, which is more than 3,000 dump trucks worth of material. And we've nearly tripled the number of repair projects we've completed compared to last year. These numbers present real physical change possible through the increased maintenance funding we received. Every day, rain or shine, our crews spread out across our service area. With increased funding, our 2025 maintenance work touched every corner of Harris County, north to south, east to west, and everywhere in between. We reached every watershed, tackling areas that had long been waiting for attention, from Cloverleaf to the near north side, and from rural Upper Cypress Creek to the urbanized Little White Oak Bayou. We were able to be in the field, making needed progress and getting results. Our teams focused on keeping channels clear, fixing damaged sites, and responding after storms wherever they occurred out in the county and wherever that took us. So what does our maintenance work look like? Here's an example of a project, typical project we do every day called sediment removal and disposal. And as we look at this picture, I'll get into that a little bit more here, but I often get asked by residents, what can I do to help? I care. I want to make sure our systems stay open and free and flowing. What can I do to help? And this is a routine exercise we do to remove sediment. It's a natural process, but living in the urban environment that we're in, there's other things that end up in our channels as well. There's litter, There's leaf debris, lawn clippings. So some things residents can do is secure your trash, make sure that stuff isn't making it into inlets, making sure your yards don't have bare ground that can erode away, making sure you're taking care of your clippings and leaves. Those are things that you can do to help remove um, uh, issues from our channel and keeping them from getting there in the first place. So clearing out built up material from our channel basins to restore their original design, capacity, and flow is the major focus of this work. This buildup does occur naturally over time, and the image on the left shows a channel overgrown with sediment and vegetation, and the image on the right is the same channel as we've excavated and cleared it. And you can see what a great effort was done and how that opened up the channel where we have positive flow of stormwater. All right, here's an example of some debris removal and buildup. And what you're seeing here is routine work. This is work that occurs every 6 weeks. This occurs on our stormwater detention basins. And this work makes sure our stormwater detention basins outflow can keep moving. Stormwater that comes in these basins will oftentimes accumulate tree branches, litter, debris, and we always have to make sure that material is clean and off those racks so they can convey the stormwater from the basins. This particular example is often referred to as a trash rack or floatable collection screen. It's a metal grate that catches all this large debris, keeps it from moving downstream, reducing blockages in our systems. And this one was overtaken by debris, and you can see we had crews out there to clear the material off so the system can function as intended. This is an example of an outfall repair. An outfall is simply a pipe or a channel or opening where water falls from one system to another. And in this case, our crew stepped in to replace the pipe, repair the resulting sinkholes, and restore the site to a stable, reliable condition so we were ready for the next event. I just want to point out that this is a critical nexus between our open water channel systems and adjacent roadways, private development. This is a very critical nexus to make sure the water that falls in your subdivisions on the roadways can make it to our channels. So we're very, very sensitive to making sure our outfalls are repaired. And all of these projects are part of our increased investment in maintenance to preserve and strengthen our flood control infrastructure. Each effort results in a place where stormwater can now move freely again. But this work also represents something much bigger, and that's momentum. For the first time in a long time, we're not just reacting to issues or triaging what we see in the field, we're getting ahead. And we're not doing it alone. We've strengthened our partnerships with the City of Houston and others, providing funding, expertise, and best practices to help maintain the infrastructure we all depend on. And maintenance isn't just about infrastructure and machines. It's also about allowing nature to do the work with us. This past year, our crews planted more than 15,000 trees and over 8,000 seedlings. Additionally, this past year, the district planted hundreds of acres of native grasses and wildflowers, the natural solution to help us stabilize soil, reduce erosion, and create healthier bayous. And for the first time in our 88-year history, we performed selective clearing work in areas like Upper Cypress Creek that we've never had funding or equipment to get out on and work. That's the kind of progress that adds up over time, helping us create greener, stronger, and more resilient systems. One of the biggest successes this year was the expansion of fast response efforts. FAST stands for Fast Action Service Teams. These are the folks who respond when something needs urgent attention: a downed tree, blocking a channel, erosion after a storm, or illegal dumping. They move fast, work safely, and get results residents can see within days. With new funding, we've added more people, more trucks, and more equipment, cutting our response times in half. This year, Fast Crews completed nearly 200 rapid response projects, everything from slope repairs to clearing debris and stabilizing banks. It's one of the clearest examples of how your service requests lead directly to visible action. This year, we also saw a major investment into our heavy equipment. We added more than $17 million of new equipment into our maintenance fleet, from excavators and skid steers to help us dig, lift, and haul, to boats and amphibious vehicles to help us reach difficult-to-get-to areas. These powerful tools help our crews perform critical maintenance work efficiently and even in the toughest conditions. And it goes without saying, but this work would not happen without our people. Our maintenance staff are experts at what they do, including mechanics, welders, heavy equipment operators, arborists, land surveyors, hydrologists, and civil engineers, all bringing their talents together to make sure our systems function as they should. These folks spend their days knee-deep in mud or up in excavators fixing what the last storm tore apart. This is tough, physical work, and it's happening every day in every corner of Harris County. We like to think of this work as more than maintaining infrastructure. It's about serving our communities. That's really the heart of this story, not just the projects, but the people that make them happen. And now I'll turn it back over to Emily from here for more discussion.
Thank you so much, Jason. And as always, thank you to your team. But I want to shift the conversation a little bit. Let's talk about how you can help shape what's next. So flood control maintenance, just like the rest of our work, works best when residents are part of it. So in the past year, we've closed more than 1,400 service requests, and 70% of those were addressed within the first 60 days. We know that communities know when stormwater isn't flowing right, when debris is building up, or when erosion starts after a big rain. And we try to be in as many places as we can, but we know that you're the true eyes on the ground. So our ask is that you report these issues directly to us at hcfcd.org, or you can give us a call at 346-286-4197. Every single one of those reports becomes a data point that helps us prioritize resources and plan our future work. But more than that, we also want to hear from you about the bigger picture. So what types of maintenance matter most to your area? How can we communicate updates more clearly? What does success look like from your perspective? That kind of feedback directly informs our work, whether it's out in the field making improvements or in the office planning what's next. And as we look ahead, we're building on the momentum from this first year of increased investment. In 2026, we're focused on doing even more. So our focus is on adding more field crews across all of our service centers. We're going to be moving more projects from design to construction, and we're going to be doing it faster. We're also focused on increasing mowing and maintenance on our buyout lots. And we're expanding our data-driven approach to track and prioritize needs. And it is so true that there's still a lot of work ahead. There is no denying that. We are dealing with decades of deferred maintenance and aging infrastructure, and all of that is coupled with increased rainfall rates and a growing population. But what we do know is that we're better equipped than ever to meet that challenge, and we know that our community is engaged and paying attention. So before I turn it back over to Crystal to kick off the Q&A, I want to pause for your thoughts. We have a poll, and we want to know which of these you'd like to see more of next year. I recognize that all three may be true, but we are asking you to pick your favorite one. So would you like to see faster response and repairs, more nature-based work, better communication and transparency, or something else? Your input will help us kind of decide what to prioritize and how to keep improving. And that's really at the core of what we're doing. Again, all three of these are really a focus for us, but it's always helpful to have a data point from the attendees to kind of know where we're headed. So I'll give everybody just a second to select your responses, and then I'll get Rob to close it. Oh, wow. So a dead heat. It looks like the first one, faster response and repairs, kind of wins the day. I have to say, I sort of expected that. But I think the nature-based work and the communication and transparency we know are key. Jason talked about it from the nature-based side, and my team is really focused on communication and transparency. So it's cool to see those results. Thank you all so much for participating. I'm going to stop talking. I think it's time to take some questions. So I'll turn it back over to Crystal to kick off the Q&A.
Thanks, Emily. You can drop your questions in the Q&A box or submit them later through our website at hcfcd.org/maintenance. We have experts here for maintenance, engineering, operations, and asset management to answer your questions. Our first question is from Rebecca. Rebecca, thanks for starting us off. Jason Cron, Houstonians love the wildflowers in our county along our bayous. Can you talk about why we grow the wildflowers and why we have to eventually mow them? She is wondering if there is any way to mow only some, but maybe not all. She's concerned about the bees, butterflies, and birds that need the habitat.
That's a great point, and the district loves our wildflowers as well. We love it. It's a beautification as well as pollinators in the spring, something exactly that you hit on. We do plant a couple hundred acres every year. You have to plant them this time of year in the fall. In the spring, they'll start greening, they'll start growing. And when that occurs, we are able to skip our first mowing cycle in the spring in those areas because, as you mentioned, they're a great pollinator. They're great ecology for our local area and system. We're able to reduce our mowing footprint at that time of year. And every year, as we plant a couple hundred more acres, we're able to expand the overall total acreage we have of wildflowers planted. And I'd like to ask one of my colleagues, Nick Griffin, at this time, if he has anything to kind of add to that response. He's kind of our subject matter expert on that, and his crews are the ones that do those plantings. So, Nick, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, Jason, thank you. Yeah, we do like planting wildflowers, and we do several hundred acres every single year across Harris County. We're looking at new species of wildflowers, including in our mix as well. This year, I think, is going to be the first year we're actually going to be planting some native milkweed species on our channels. So we're always looking to improve the program, expand the program, and not only that, maintain the areas that have pre-existing naturally occurring wildflowers as well. So our intent isn't to mow over the wildflower areas, but to identify ones that are naturally occurring and bolster additional wildflowers throughout Harris County through our own planting.
Thanks, Nick. Jason, we covered some highlights that the maintenance team has accomplished this past year, but we didn't cover everything that falls under maintenance. Can you please share a few of the other programs the maintenance crews work on that weren't mentioned?
Absolutely. So my administration covers everything related to maintenance. Some of the other things that fall underneath the maintenance umbrella are the routine maintenance and inspection of our gauge network that occurs under our hydrologic operations team. That's the gauge network that provides instant reading on rainfall data that we're able to push out to the public for public awareness on water levels on channels around systems. It helps us document what's taking place, and it's one small part of our overall flood warning system. And so that's something that's very critical to get that data out there to understand where the rainfall is occurring as well as where these river systems are changing. But another big thing we do is our disaster recovery efforts. So a big part of the maintenance crews is we were the first ones to come in post-storm, whether it was the spring floods we had in 2024, the derecho, or Hurricane Beryl. We were in the mix in all of those with an immediate rapid response of the areas that were impacted that was followed up by fast action teams getting out there, opening up the critical junctures, getting in and starting to remove that debris. And depending on the size, that could even mean activating a disaster recovery contractor to come in and help with the debris. A good example of that is Hurricane Beryl. Due to the widespread nature of Beryl, we did have to bring in a disaster recovery contractor. The derecho was a little smaller in nature. We did not have to in that instance, but our teams are there to maintain the systems, to keep them in an ever-ready state. So when we do have that shock to the system from a weather incident, we are out there, boots on the ground, immediately assessing the issues, looking at what needs to occur, and then immediately moving on, making critical initial repairs, and then long-range efforts to do cleanup work.
Thanks, Jason. This next question is for Emily. One of the questions we are occasionally asked by the community is how funding for maintenance work from the tax increase is different than the 2018 bond program. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I'm happy to. And I saw a question pop in from Meredith about this. So I'm glad we're addressing it. So the flood control district has multiple forms of multiple ways that we fund our work. So our organization leverages a dedicated property tax that is solely for the flood control district. We also have the ability to issue bonds, and we also have partnership funding, which is a really critical piece of our work. So tax revenues are what we use to cover ongoing operational costs. So that's maintenance. And the tax increase that passed last year is what's funding the work that you see here. So no bonds are funding what we've talked about tonight. Those bonds are more suited for capital projects where infrastructure is being improved and it makes sense to take on a debt and pay for a project over many years. So when we talk about the maintenance activities that we're doing tonight, we know that those are year in, year out things that are needed. And the best thing we can do is have a really predictable stream of income that supports that work. And so that's why this tax increase was so important and has been so transformational to the work that Jason's team does and really to the work of the whole organization. But you can think about it this way as kind of a cheat sheet. Funds through bond programs are used for large-scale capital projects for the most part, while maintenance funds are really derived from our tax rate and are used to maintain those kinds of projects once they're finished.
And Emily, this is a follow-up question on that topic. Recently, the Flood Control District provided an update on the status of the bond program and launched a dashboard. During this update, some projects that were previously slated to receive bond funding were transferred to maintenance. Emily, can you please share why these were moved under maintenance?
Yeah, I'm happy to. But first, I will shamelessly plug our dashboard. Honestly, it's really cool. And I highly recommend everybody check it out. You can get that via our homepage at hcfcd.org. There's a bar across the top that'll take you straight there. But yes, you're correct. So we did a comprehensive review of projects under the bond program earlier this year, frankly, over about an 8-month period. And we identified some bond IDs that were major maintenance projects. They were included in the bond program originally because we didn't have the maintenance funding needed to make those repairs. And they were in response to Hurricane Harvey. But now, with our increased maintenance funds, we have that funding in place. And so we transferred them over to our maintenance department to make sure that we had expanded our ability to fund more projects under the bond program and really use those dollars in a way that makes sense. So we're thankful for the opportunity we had to kind of evaluate that work, and we'll continue doing that as we move forward.
Thanks, Emily. Jason Brock, can you share your job title, then help us with the following question? One of the main focuses for next year is moving deferred maintenance projects from design to construction faster. What major maintenance and infrastructure repair projects do you have planned to be under construction next year?
Sure. Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Jason Brock. I'm the Maintenance Engineering Department Manager here at the Flood Control District. 2025 was about ramping up, and 2026 is all about momentum. These major projects take thoughtful planning. Most spend about 9 to 12 months in design. Thanks to expanded partnerships and on-call construction contracts, we're able to move projects from design to construction faster than ever before. In 2026, we plan to have 50 major maintenance and 124 infrastructure repair projects under construction across Harris County. From repairing and replacing concrete channel linings to repairing severe erosion and stabilizing channel banks. We will be here leveraging this investment in maintenance to help keep Harris County ready for the next storm.
Thanks, Jason. Mr. Ron, thanks for joining us tonight. I love to hear that your home made our video. So we have a great question from Valerie. We know that maintenance is about preserving the systems we already have in place. It is keeping our systems working as designed. But what about the capital projects? Emily, can you talk a bit about how our capital projects reduce this risk of flooding? She is wanting to know when we can expect a difference in terms of flooding as a county in the next 100-year storm.
Yeah, that is a great question, Valerie. So as I mentioned earlier, we have those multiple streams of revenue that are helping to fund our work. And certainly those capital projects are a huge part of what we do. We're not talking about them tonight because we're spotlighting a different part of the organization, but that work is critical. So we have hundreds of projects underway across Harris County that add capacity to our system. And so what that means is we're either widening channels, building basins, looking at other ways of really preventing risk or lowering risk. And a big source of that is through our 2018 bond program. So that program is leveraging more than $5 billion in funding that's coupled between bonds and then also partnership funding to make sure that we are moving projects forward. And we do know that those projects are making a difference. So I know you asked about, kind of the difference in what flooding might look like. I'll just use Hurricane Beryl as an example. Obviously, there was a lot of wind in that event, but there was a lot of rain too. And what our calculations really showed us is that had it not been for the projects that were completed through that bond program, hundreds of structures would have flooded. And we're really proud of that. We're proud to see those benefits, and we're really focused on just continuing to deliver those. But to answer your question directly, we're already seeing the benefits of that work really across Harris County. And we have a huge number of projects that are moving into construction all next year and into the next couple of years. And so we're really excited for that uptick, and folks will start to see that work in motion.
Thanks, Emily. Catherine is asking about a survey group working on the south side of Buffalo Bayou between Derry Ashford and Lashbrook Drive. She saw surveying stakes in that same area. We're looking into this question for you. If we can't answer it tonight, we will get back with you. Jason Brock, do we have an update on Catherine's question by chance?
I do. I guess we did have a work order that our MCG group, our fast action service team, was out there reinstalling trail signs and barricades. But we will get back to you. We'll double check and make sure that if there's anything else specific to that site, Catherine, and follow up with you.
Thank you. Jason Cron, we are being asked about how many outflows were repaired and what parts of Harris County need a lot of attention. Can you speak to that?
Absolutely. I can tell you that during this past FY, the district repaired a little over 156 outfalls, which is a 58% increase in the amount of outfalls we repaired in FY 24. And that focus was on outfalls, impacting our system from basins into our channels. But that's not the only thing that we did for outfalls this past year. Another thing we did is, if you remember earlier in our presentation, we mentioned partnerships, and we've partnered with Harris County Office of County Engineer on their outfall program where they could help us out and help get outfalls repaired that come into our systems. So it's not just us, we're all in this together. It's partnerships like we have with OCE. It's us doing our due diligence on increasing the amount of outfalls we repair. And it's also working with adjacent systems. So one of my colleagues online with us tonight, Jeremy Phillips with our asset management division, they do a really good job at assessing these outfalls. And we notice a private outfall that needs work, we start a letter writing campaign. We notify that owner, hey, this outfall needs some work. It could compromise integrity of other things. So it's a multi-prong approach on getting our outfalls repaired, and it occurs across the entire county. Jeremy, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
No, you hit the highlights, but Jason's right. We have we work and coordinate across multiple different agencies and individual landowners and commercial agencies to try to make sure that if we identify failed infrastructure, that they were coordinating to get those repairs done. It's quite a bit of work in addition to the work that Jason's team and the maintenance folks are doing in terms of repair and replace as well.
Thank you. Catherine is concerned about the trees and grasses and the big mature trees. She's asking that you please consider the health of mature trees covered with vine to be an urgent issue. Nick, can you mention your job title and then talk about this from your perspective?
Sure, I'm the department manager over the facilities maintenance department at the Flood Control District. So I oversee all of our vegetation management operations at the district. And I think what that question might be relating to could be covered within our selective clearing program. This is a program where we manage the vegetation on natural and forested channels. So if we have an area that is under our maintenance responsibility where we're getting overgrowth of vines or other invasive species, we'll go through with our selected clearing program and remove invasive species, things that are crowding out desirable trees and species. So I totally agree. Mature trees definitely provide more benefits ecologically in a system than younger trees. So we want to keep and preserve those trees wherever possible. We also look for ways to preserve trees within our construction projects and expansion across the district. So we work with our construction division on doing tree protection on sites where we can protect and preserve trees on construction sites as well. So if there's a specific question or concern regarding a specific area, I'd encourage the resident to contact our Citizen Services Helpline to report the issue, and let's see if we can't do something about that under our selective clearing program.
Thank you, Nick. Jason Cron, Valerie is asking about the health of our county's drainage system. Can you talk a bit about the natural channels of our county as compared to the miles of channel man has constructed to drain the land? She is asking if you would describe our network as a state of the art or a broken system or somewhere in between those two extremes.
That's a great question. And just to kind of hit on something we hit on earlier in the presentation, as we mentioned, 88 years worth of infrastructure. And when we think of that 2,500 miles of channel system, I like to refer to it as blue, green, gray infrastructure. So when I'm talking about green infrastructure, these are natural channels that were already here, not constructed. We have roughly 800 miles of those. So that's one side of the spectrum. On the other side, when I'm talking about gray infrastructure, we're looking at about 138 linear miles of pure concrete line channels, purely constructed. And then the remainder of it that I would call blue would be constructed earthen channels with constructed features such as outfalls, concrete, etc. There's not a one size fits all. You have to maintain them all based on what they are. And really, it's a quilt work or a network of an overall system and how they tie together. And so it's not a one size fits all. It's metered towards which system is which type. And as Nick was just mentioning, we have maintenance efforts that take place on those natural channels. He mentioned selective clearing. That's just one small thing we do for our overall riparian corridor health. His teams are also tackling invasive species, keeping those systems open. They're planting trees, seedlings, live stakes to close canopies and keep those systems. That's one approach which we have to take for our natural channels. Concrete line channels that pure constructed are managed a little differently. They're managed more like a roadway project. So I wouldn't say you can paint it into one corner or another. I would say all the systems are what they are. They work together. They function together for conveyance. In addition to that 280 stormwater detention basins, which serves a purpose of storage until it conveys. So I wouldn't think of it as just a one type system. It's a quilt work, and we manage them all a little differently for peak efficiency. And we're always looking for how we can enhance as we repair and build more sustainability and resiliency in those systems.
Thank you. Jason Brock, Jim Robertson is asking about the status of the FEMA sediment removal program. We know that work is considered restoration work rather than typical maintenance, but sediment removal is very important. Can you talk about this?
Sure. Yes, we do have a large grant with FEMA to restore the capacity in multiple channels across 8 different watersheds. Right now, the design for those packages range from anywhere from 25% to bid ready.
Thank you. Dry Creek, Jason Cron, does the channel Dry Creek sound familiar to you? We have a resident asking, is repair work planned on this channel? Can you help with this, or do you need to do some homework?
I'm gonna have to do a little homework on that question, but we will absolutely circle back with the resident and answer any questions they have on that system. I'll look into it though.
Okay, thank you. And while I have you, Glenn is asking about jurisdiction of waterways in our county. Can you speak generally about the waterways and stormwater detention basins and how this infrastructure is owned and managed by us and others?
Absolutely. So I would say the Harris County Flood Control District probably is the largest owner of open water channel systems and stormwater detention basins in Harris County. But as mentioned, there are MUDs, PUDs, cities, and other jurisdictions that have open water channel systems, enclosed systems, which are culverted systems, private detention basins. All of those things have to meet our PCPM for design standards, but they are not all under the Harris County Flood Control jurisdiction for maintenance. As Jeremy mentioned, many of them do tie into our systems, though, as he mentioned earlier on inspection of other assets. So as a lot of those things are constructed, and as I mentioned, they have to meet our standards for construction, we will go out and look at them where they tie into our channel systems, but many of them are not owned by the district.
Thank you. We're getting some questions about capital projects. No questions are off limits, so keep them coming. However, we will need to get back to you after this meeting when we have the right staff available to answer accurately. We're getting some good Kingwood questions, perhaps about Kingwood Diversion Ditch or Taylor Gully, two exciting capital projects in the Kingwood area. We will get back to you with those answers. Nick, can you talk a bit about the drought? Has it affected your work, and in what ways, either good or bad?
Okay, yes. So over the last couple of years, we did experience a drought in the region. This past year, we did have pretty consistent rainfall up until the last part of the summer growing season. So I'd say one of the primary impacts that we had from the drought was tree losses and tree removals. So our tree removals, usually it's a cycle that builds over time as trees become stressed and die. It's not necessarily right during the time of the drought. It happens years after. So it's definitely increased our workload on tree removals. I think it was a major impact to the debris load that we saw with Hurricane Beryl, with trees that were in a weakened state falling over. So that definitely did impact our work. It also, on the flip side of that, with the consistent rainfall that we received this year, we also had very prolific growth of our grasses. So it was a lot higher grasses in the channel. People might have noticed as well. So really, we're kind of flex with nature as far as our maintenance goes. And sometimes it's an increase in our work, and sometimes it's an increase in another type of work that we do.
Thank you, Nick. Jason Cron, Meredith is asking if there are more plans for green infrastructure to help absorb stormwater more quickly.
Absolutely. The district is always focused on trying to increase the amount of green infrastructure we have. We do it through multiple different programs. We have a tree reforestation program. As mentioned earlier, we planted 15,000 trees last year. This year, we're looking to plant 20,000 trees through our tree reforestation program, and an additional 20,000 trees through our riparian corridor health program. That's where we're closing canopies and adding trees along those natural channel systems. In addition to that, as mentioned, we have a program to plant native seed as well as wildflowers. Those are great ways to help reduce that maintenance a little bit, as well as provide for more absorption on our channel systems. And we do these programs based on sound data. My colleague Nick Griffin has several studies going on that are looking at infiltration rates, the benefits of having forestation on our stormwater detention basins versus just having a grassline stormwater detention basin. So we're always looking at the analytics and the data that support those moves to bring in more green infrastructure. We're committed to delivering on those, as well as making repairs to natural channels through our Natural Stable Channel Design program. Those are areas where we're able to go in and stabilize channels that are eroding or have sedimentation issues and bring them back to a more natural state. So we're moving on multiple avenues from that aspect to increase our nature-based solutions and our nature-based footprint.
Thanks, Jason. Jeremy, Mr. Nick K is asking about Buffalo Bayou along the main stem specifically. Can you talk about any maintenance work along Buffalo Bayou and any challenges we face when trying to do any work along Buffalo Bayou?
Mr. Nick, good evening, and thanks for the question. Buffalo Bayou is very challenging to work in. It's largely a natural channel, so our work it really focuses on debris removal, blockage removal, things like that. You'll see that we do a lot of waterborne operations in Buffalo Bayou. You may see airboats going up and down the bayou in some cases. Access is one of our biggest challenges in Buffalo. As an example, we had to work a few years ago with Memorial Park Conservancy for access to get access to a vehicle that was submerged, and it took us a while to get down to it and remove that vehicle. We don't actually have right-of-way contiguous down all of Buffalo Bayou. So access is one of the biggest challenges we face in getting in there after storms and responding to service requests. It's also a very popular bayou. There's lots of recreation along Buffalo Bayou, especially as the farther you go out west from downtown, you'll see parks and trail systems throughout. Many of those are managed by some of our local public recreation sponsors, like the city or the counties that have parks up and down there. So yeah, Buffalo Bayou can be fairly challenging. I hope that answered your question.
Thanks, Jeremy. Jason Cron, Christina is asking about partnerships. She is wondering what type of interaction we have with other agencies. She is specifically asking about the city of Houston. Can you talk about any shared maintenance work with other agencies within our county?
Absolutely. Partnerships is a very critical piece of what we do. As mentioned earlier, we have partnerships where we have outfall repairs taking place with the Office of County Engineer. But in addition to that, there's partnerships that people don't realize many times, and those are multi-use agreements, multi-use partnerships. We work directly with Houston Parks Board and allow them to have trail systems on our channel network. We coordinate with them very regularly. Additionally, we work with Buffalo Bayou Partnership, where we've allowed them to have a park within Buffalo Bayou, which has been a wild success story. And there's so many other partnerships that people don't realize the district helps take the lead on. One of the partnerships I'd like to flag from that standpoint is something we did this past year, and my colleague Jeremy Phillips and his team were instrumental on. That was taking a holistic approach to addressing encampments on our channels. And that wasn't just on our flood control channels. We work with local law enforcement, other local community organizations to help get aid to many of these encampments. And so much of what Jeremy's team did was not only addressing those on our systems, but working with others, talking with others, getting folks the help they need, as well as getting them out of the floodway. So there's multiple examples of partnerships we do. They don't always relate to projects. Many instances they do, but many other times they relate to other aspects that people don't think of. The flood control is taking a lead or a stance on from that standpoint.
Thanks, Jason. Jeremy and Nick, this is probably a dream question for the both of you. Jim is asking how residents might be able to recommend wildflower plantings along different channels. Is this something that can be done through your service request process on the website? Jeremy, can you talk a bit about your service request system and how it can be used?
Yeah, I'll talk real quick about the service request system, and then I'll turn it over to Nick to speak to wildflower plantings. But just in general, anybody can, if you have a question in general about what's going on in the district or need access to any kind of service, you can always reach out to our Citizen Service Center and our service request system. And it's the best way for us to get feedback from you guys. And you are, as we mentioned before, a critical part of those eyes and ears out there telling us what's going on in our channel systems. And there's really two ways to submit those service requests. One, you can go to our website. That's hcfcd.org /service-request. At the top of that web page, you'll see a little service request button. If you get lost on the flood control page, you can always go to the top, hit that service request button, and it'll take you to that page, and you can fill out a service request there, or you can call us at 346-286-4197. And we'll log that information. Well, if we can't answer it outright, we'll assign it to a property manager or a service team member to go out and take a look. And we'll follow back up with you as well once we look into it. But in general, yes, you can also reach out to us to give us your ideas on wildflowers, and we'll make sure they get to Nick and his team. Nick, do you want to talk a little bit more about specifically about the wildflowers?
Yeah, so you absolutely can make recommendations and put requests in for wildflower plantings as well as tree plantings in areas. We have our current wildflower season already planned out for the 2026 year, so it would have to be a future project, but we also will do an assessment on the site to determine the feasibility of doing trees or wildflowers in any given location. There might be a pending repair project or something else that would inhibit us from doing a wildflower planting at the location. But as a general rule, we're looking for public input. We want these plantings in these areas to be able to be enjoyed by the public. So it's absolutely something that you can do.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Jeremy. Jason Brock, we have a resident asking about sediment removal projects. Was the Barker Reservoir area part of the 2025 sediment removal projects? Or can you talk about this more?
Sure. Yes, we did have some channels within the Barker Reservoir watershed that we did perform sediment removal. But I will say that we do have quite a bit of work that's coming up. We have right around $12 million worth of work that's coming dedicated to the Barker Reservoir watershed for sediment removal and channel restoration projects.
Thanks, Jason. Jason Cron, within the more urban areas, sometimes residents see concrete lined channels. And yeah, generally people prefer to see grass lined channels and wildflowers in bloom. Can you talk about the percentage of concrete lined channels within our drainage network and why we sometimes use concrete, yet not other times?
Absolutely. So I would say less than 3% of our overall systems are actually concrete line channel systems. So it's a very small percentage. I think the biggest impact, though, is when folks are out on I-10 or the major corridors and they're driving over those main channel systems, they see the White Oak Bayou and the Brays Bayou and those channels that were concrete lined. Use of concrete lining is a little older technique. 2/3 of our concrete line channels were built before 1978, so you're thinking of older standards, but it does serve a purpose. It moves water quickly, it expedites the flow, and that was the thought and rationale whenever it was installed. It is a tool in our toolbox. In many instances, if we have limited right-of-way or other issues impacting it, it is an option to allow us to help keep people safe from water. And in some instances, we do still utilize that, but that is not the method that we would prefer to utilize. So not a whole lot of concrete line channels, less than 3%. It is a tool in the toolbox, and the majority of them are the older systems that were installed pre-1978.
Thanks, Jason.
Absolutely.
Thank you all again for joining us and being part of this important conversation. If we did not get to your question during the Q&A session, we will follow up with a response after the meeting. Now I'd like to turn it back to Emily for a few closing remarks.
Thanks so much, Crystal. And I will say, I think we hit almost every question. So thank you guys so much for all of the great feedback and input. We have a lot of homework to do and some things to follow up on. But I think one of my favorite parts about my job is connecting these experts with the public. And I think you can see just the depth of expertise that we have on this leadership team that's really leading this maintenance work. And it's just so cool to see that in action. So thank you guys for joining us on our panel. But I'll also just say thank you both to everybody who joined us from the public tonight, but also to everybody who's out in the field really doing this work. You can see some of those everyday heroes pictured here. These guys are actually out in the field collecting data to help plan for repairs. But the reality is that we know flood control maintenance is not glamorous. This is long hours, it's heavy equipment, it's problem solving on site, and it happens in every kind of weather. So as cold as it was today and as it will be tomorrow, we've got folks out in the field. But thanks to your support through increased maintenance funding and your continued input, we're able to catch up on decades of deferred maintenance, and we're focused on building a stronger system for the future. So I do have a parting ask for you. We ask that you keep speaking up, keep sending us feedback, and keep holding us accountable. We know that maintenance matters, and together we're really focused on making it happen. So have a great night.